This book, The Sun Also Rises, was a stunner, a real pearl. I have never read anything by Ernest Hemingway. That's a shame, really. Always when I read a book by famous old writers, they affect me on so many different levels. First of all, the language is always proper and concrete. The sentences can be wrong grammatically, but you always see the bigger picture and can understand the surroundings of the book. The vocabulary is always significant for books like this. The variation of phrases makes the reading interesting and alive. One might get bored by all the bombastic and catchy sentences, but in this book, I think those sentences had a purpose. They did illustrate the way Hemingway and his friends spoke during this time after the First World War. Ernest Hemingway, among Sherwood Anderson and F. Scott Fitzgerald, was three authors of the so-called Lost Generation. The name refers to the younger generation that experienced the First World War. The generation is described as lost and delusional. They lack faith of life as well as education, and all of this misery is mainly caused by the war. Those circumstances resulted in a frequent traveling around the world, which they saw as the meaning of life. Or maybe they were searching for the meaning of life, and therefore we have the expression the lost generation. That is something me as a teenager can relate to searching for the meaning of life. But I do believe that's a common question no matter age, and an almost endless mystery. The book is about a journalist called Jacob who lives in Paris. He is a veteran of the First World War, and nowadays he spends his time traveling around Europe. He got some permanent friends, like Robert Cohn, who is a former boxer, but most of the time he meets new friends in different places. His life contains of a lot of drinking and partying, and I always react when someone portrays and celebrates a way of living when it involves alcohol. Alcohol helps you to relax and forget all the demands, and that's good, but should not an ideal life be enough relaxing and demand free itself? I mean, why should alcohol help you live a good life? Aren't you living an enjoyable life while you are sober? I will not say that Jacob has a good drinking habit. He drinks to forget the reality, not to have a good time. And this situation from the fiesta in Spain, when he was drinking with some of his friends, shows that. I feel like hell, Jacob said. Have another? His friend Bill said. It won't do any good. Try it. You can't tell. Maybe this one gets it. Jacob got so drunk that he couldn't see anything at his hotel room. But he did forget his misery of life while he was drunk, so you cannot blame him. I believe that Jacob avoids the reality a bit too much to live an idle life. But I do think this book wants to discuss the meaning of life, and it shows one way of living, the pros and cons of it, and it makes you think. It makes me question the meaning of finding a soulmate. Jacob have one love, Brett Ashley. They both love each other, but I don't think their actions shows that. Or maybe that's exactly what they do. Because they always hook up after Brett's breakups. She always contacts Jacob and begs for consolation and understanding of her behavior. Brett is a volatile and ambiguous person and quite unsure about how she wants to spend her life. If you combine that with Jacob's traveling around the world and never really settle for a place, you do not have a perfect match. And I think this situation is known by them both, as the book ends with, "Oh Jake," Brett said, "we could have had such a damn good time together." "Yes," I said. "Isn't it pretty to think so?" Ernest Hemingway's style of writing makes you wonder what will happen next. His way of living can you picture in his way of writing. He wrote in a mysterious way, and you never know what will happen next, and therefore you continue reading. It feels like Hemingway knows the right outcome of situations he describes in the book, but instead he chooses to let the character act different and often wrong. Jacob, who is the protagonist, reflects a lot, and you can follow his thoughts quite easy. And you can notice that almost all of the characters are analytical. Despite that, they always depart from their thoughts and act different. For example, when Mike was drunk and he acted very bad towards Robert Cohn, although he knew that it was wrong. And all of the attendant friends knew that as well. And I think this is a common act by everyone. Many of us have the capacity to distinguish good from bad in our minds. But when it comes to actually act good or bad, many of us fails. That shows how weak we are and how our desire to fit in takes over in difficult situations rather than the desire to act correct and right. And there you have it. The meaning of life is to act as you think, and all problems will disappear. No, but jokes aside, I do believe you should consider your actions before you execute them, and try not to live your life consuming alcohol on a daily basis. Try to be happy with a good amount of self-esteem and respect other people. But who am I to judge? We are all humans, which means failing is a part of our living. We just have to learn by them and try to be at one's best. And as always, when I have read a old famous book, I've got a bit wiser and more enlightened about the world. Thank you.